So for this video, I'm going to tell you everything that I think that you need to know about Airbnb and midterm rentals right now. And then in November of 2023, so not that far away, I will do an update when Airbnb rolls out the new change. First things first, let's talk about definitions, because this is often something that individuals confuse and also city governments confuse. So we want to be really clear on it. Airbnb is just a platform like Zillow is, like apartments.com is, like Trulia is, like Furnish Finder is. However, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with Airbnb because people associate it with the short-term space. And the reason for that is because Airbnb gained all their popularity by being in the short-term space, cultivating the short-term space associated with rentals in people's homes or individual houses, with the guests staying about the same time that you would stay at a hotel. However, since COVID and because of the rise of remote work, a lot more people are familiar with the midterm rental model, which is a furnished 30+ day space. And that can be 30 days, it can be 6 months, it can be a year, it can be 18 months. And actually, a lot of people think about this as a month-to-month rental, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but my experience has not been that people come in for 30 days. So I'll talk about that in a sec. In fact, in this Financial Times article where Brian Chesky is talking about Airbnb going after the midterm rental model, he is also talking about office space being dead. Now, I know there are some companies that are still struggling and trying to bring people back in, but Brian Chesky and Erin Spradlin believe that this model is basically dead, and that if you want the best minds and perhaps cheaper labor for your company, you need to allow for geographic freedom with your employees. And so they're doubling down on this model, and it's also the reason why I believe this model has really taken off. All of which is to say, when you hear the term Airbnb now, no longer associate it with short-term rentals only. Think of it as a platform, just like Zillow, just like Trulia, just like apartments.com, and think about two models that it services. One being short-term stays, so under 30+ days. The other being furnished stays of 30 days up to. So how much is Airbnb going to cost you? Airbnb charges 3%, which is significantly more expensive than its competition. Zillow doesn't actually charge hosts anything. Furnish Finder charges a one-time fee. I don't know about some of the other ones, but Airbnb is going to take 3%, which is going to be a lot more than a one-time $99 fee like Furnish Finder. Calculation that's important to hosts is whether or not they will lose more money if their place sits vacant for 2 or 3 weeks because they're avoiding Airbnb and avoiding that 3% fee, or will they lose more money if they go on Airbnb and have to pay Airbnb out that 3% fee for a longer rental. If you feel this video has been helpful so far, please like this video. It helps other people that are new to the space find this content, and it also helps me understand what kind of products and what kind of content is useful to you. In this case, how to use the Airbnb platform, how to think about the Airbnb platform, and how to utilize it so that your vacancy rate stays very low. That's what you're looking at, but I am all in on Airbnb, and I'm all in on Airbnb because I don't like vacancies. I actually have a 92% occupancy rate, which is better than a lot of long-term rentals, and that's in the midterm space. And part of that is because I utilize Airbnb as one of the platforms where I source my tenants. The other reason why people are excited about Airbnb going after the midterm space, or the growth of the midterm space, I should say, is because you don't have the regulation issues that you do with a short-term rental. So what I mean by that is that regulation comes down on a city by city level. So a lot of cities have banned 30-day or fewer rentals. So that has knocked out a lot of short-term rentals, Airbnb rentals. And so if you can go after a rental that's 30 days or more, you can still source them off of the Airbnb platform. You can still provide furniture for them because you're no longer outside of the law as long as you're renting for 30 days or longer. So that's a big appeal in the midterm space, is that you're functioning within the law and your investment is not vulnerable to an unhappy neighbor or something because you are doing it legally. And I have called many cities up and down the Front Range here in Colorado and talked to many consulting clients throughout the United States. The only city that I know that has a limitation on 30+ days is Baltimore, and Baltimore has a 90-day limitation. I haven't come across any other city that has average length of stay, because that ties right into the regulation and having the 30+ days. So Furnish Finder has it all over their website that the average length of stay is 90 days. I believe that's right because I believe they have enough data to pull that and to know how long people are coming in. My experience, however, has been that a lot of people want these rentals for longer than 30 days. In fact, I have rentals right now that are at 18 months, 9 months, and a year. And I believe that's because there's going to be more and more demand for people that want to come and stay in spaces for longer and don't want to deal with buying furniture when they can just jump from property to property. This is both a pro and con for hosts. The pro is that you get a renter in and you don't have to worry about anything for 9 months, a year, 18 months. Awesome. The other pro is that they pay the elevated rent, so you make 40 to 65% more than you would on a long-term rental. The only con in this situation is that if you want to use that property, the longer stays make that more challenging. So just don't be surprised if people start to come in and are asking for longer and longer stays. And really don't be surprised once Airbnb makes this announcement in November. I think they're going to go hard after people that want 6-month stays, year-long stays, and you will be surprised by the amount of demand that lends itself to this. So vetting has been a bit of an issue for Airbnb over the last couple of years. The problem with that, again, being that you can't do a background and credit check, you can't put people on a deposit, and up until about a week ago, you couldn't have a lease in Airbnb. So it will be interesting to see if in November of 2023, if Airbnb adds vetting features. The way I handle it right now is that I just make sure that any guest has 3 or more positive reviews, and a bonus is if you have other hosts talking about what a pleasure they were to host and to have in their property. My thought on this is that it's not a sure thing, but it's kind of the best option that we have currently. And I would find it very strange if someone acted dramatically differently when they arrived at my place versus how they had acted in the past. That said, everybody that uses Airbnb in the United States is verified by Airbnb, which means that there is at least a government issued document on file with Airbnb for that person to be on the platform, but it will be interesting to see what they add on to that. As a reminder, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by Airbnb, I do one-to-one consulting, and I start with packages at the hour level and then go up depending on how much help you want, including writing out your listing and vetting your first tenant. Now, these consulting calls are over video and they're face-to-face. I share my screen to help you see the settings and also talk you through the logic. I also make sure that you're protected from anything that you didn't ask me, but that I feel you need to know. I offer courses because I like having specific questions answered. I think that's the best use of my time, and I think it's the best use of your time. If you want to set up consulting, my email is on the screen. Just reach out to me and we will get you on the calendar. So right now I'm not adding a lease to Airbnb because I'd actually rather have Airbnb fight for me than to have to utilize the lease. But other people have different feelings about that. Again, I'm not a lawyer and you shouldn't take my advice. All right, and then finally, when you're thinking about listing on Airbnb, some other things that you should know is almost as important as professional photos, but way more ignored is your headline and how you write your headline. And do not use the word cozy, cottage, spacious, light-filled, etc., etc., etc. I could go on forever on this. Be specific in your headline. Allowing dogs knocks out a lot of your competition. I think adding an EV charger to your place is smart now because we know the future of cars is EVs. King beds are very appealing in luxury properties, and so if you have a king bed, you should definitely mention that in your headline. Storage space remains very popular in the midterm space, especially if you are close to a college or military base. And then final tip, turn off instant book. The benefit of that being that you can vet tenants and not automatically accept them. You get a feel for them and then manually go ahead and accept or decline them. I am extremely excited that Airbnb is taking this space more seriously and going after it, just because Airbnb has been life-changing for my husband and I hope for all the people that watch this that becoming a landlord and exploring these different platforms is also life-changing for you. It can be the difference between working for someone else or working for yourself, and that is an awesome feeling.